What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we got two new LAVAL cards revealed for Lightning Overdrive, which is pretty cool because we also got two new LAVAL cards that aren't half bad revealed in Selection 10 in the OCG. We'll probably get it imported in, Ghosts of the Past. Probably that set, most likely, but still, this is just two more tacked onto those two, and yeah, we'll get into what these bad boys do. So, starting off, I guess let's start with the spell real quick. I think the spell's probably a better place to start. I did read them over real quick before starting the video. This is Explosive Birth of the Flame Champion. Very cool art, by the way. It's literally like him just like exploding out of magma, which is dope. It's a normal spell, and you can only activate one per turn. Cool. And the first effect reads, target 2 fire monsters with 200 defense in your graveyard. They have to have exactly 200 defense. Keep that in mind. One has to be a tuner and one has to be a non-tuner. You're going to banish both, and if you do, special summon one fire synchro monster from your extra deck with a level equal to the total levels of those banished monsters. Okay, so pretty much this is like kind of like a miracle fusion, but for synchros, right? You're banishing the materials from grave, and instead of going into a fusion monster, you're making a synchro with the appropriate level for the monsters you're banishing. But overall, I think it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good extender. The only downside of this card is I don't think it's going to be searchable based off of its name which is not the end of the world. I mean, it's still a pretty good card. And then it's pretty strict to LAVALs, right? Fire monsters with exactly 200 defense. It has to be a tuner and a non-tuner. And the last thing to keep in mind is it says special summon a fire synchro, and it doesn't say anything about considering that summon a synchro summon. So if something triggered on synchro summon or had an effect that only was live if the monster was correctly synchro summoned, I believe this card will not fly with that. It won't work with those effects. So just keep that in mind. But all things considered, it's a nice little extender. I mean, it's really just one card after you've already done a play, like started a combo, boom, drop an extra level 8, level 7 synchro on the board and keep it moving. Pretty good card, I mean, overall. And obviously, if you're going to have a new card that lets you cheat out synchro monsters, you got to have a new dope synchro monster. So here we have LAVAL X-Lord. Oh no, I'm getting all these notifications now. No. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So LAVAL X-Lord, he's a level 8 Fire Warrior synchro effect monster. So he's level 8, so you'd have to banish levels that add up to 8, and they have to be tuner and non-tuner to summon him off of this card. His materials, his attack is 2,900 and his defense is 200. They had a typo here. It's actually only 200, not 2,000. And his materials are actually fairly generic. It's any tuner plus one or more non-tuner fire monsters. So only the non-tuners have to be fire, but other than that, pretty generic overall. It's pretty cool. And both of his effects are hard once per turns. His first effect reads, when your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or on the field, quick effect, you can destroy that monster, and if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. And the second effect, if this card is synchro, if this synchro summoned card is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can special summon up to 3 non-synchro fire monsters with 200 defense from your graveyard in defense position, but their effects are negated. Okay, so starting off with the first effect, I think it's an okay disruption. I mean, it's 2020. Like, this could have easily just been, if your opponent activates a monster effect, negate and destroy that card, then deal 1,000. Could have easily just been that. Destroying something, it's okay, but it's also not Dryden, because Dryden can fire off whenever it wants. And it doesn't have to wait for your opponent to do things. So, like, this card's probably a little bit too reactive for my liking as far as the disruption effect. It is still disruption at the end of the day, though, so for a deck that I don't believe has a ton of ways to get to disruption, you get it where you can get it, I guess, right? And the second effect, it just seems like it's a decent float effect. It's not insane. It's a via destruction only, but it is battle or card effect, so that's fine. And it's pretty powerful, right? You get 3 non-synchro fire monsters, like, not half bad. Their effects are negated, but of course they could be used for a plethora of things, right? Like, you know what I mean? Synchro, links, whatever on your next turn, just follow up wherever you can get it. So I think he's fine. I don't think he's overwhelming. I think both of his effects are kind of just underwhelming for 2020 standards. I would say, like, if I was giving these effects specifically ranks out of 10, I would say this one's like a 4 or 5, and this one's probably like a 5. I mean, it's a decent float effect, but it's not insane. Maybe I'd give it a 6, because if it resolves, it's actually really strong. It just has to be destroyed, and there's so much non-destruction removal in 2020, so, or 2021. Pardon me. I've probably been saying that all video, and I probably will for a couple weeks. You know how it is. So yeah, I think this card's fine. Overall, I think it's an okay boss monster for a deck that doesn't have great access to a ton of like good boss monsters. So he's fine. He's serviceable is what I'll call him. And the only other thing I want to do is I want to go back real quick and just look at the older LAVAL cards or LAVAL cards we had revealed in the selection 10. You got LAVAL Archer. He's pretty cool. He gives you an additional normal summon when he's normal summoned for a LAVAL monster, and he can like summon himself back to the field by like destroying a fire monster on field. But he gets banished when he leaves the field next. So he's a pretty good card. He is not a tuner. It's important to note because of the new boss monsters. And then you have the LAVAL Salamander. This card's kind of cool too. On Synchro Summon, you draw 2 cards, then send 2 cards from hand to grave, including a fire monster, or you have to like shuffle your whole deck back into the, or your whole hand back into the deck. And then once per turn, you can banish a fire monster from grave to change face-up monsters your opponent controls all face down up to the number of LAVAL monsters you control. Pretty cool effect. If that was a quick effect, oh mama. Oh mama. Unfortunately, it's not. So it's not like an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, unfortunately. It's still pretty decent, though, as far as like being able to allow you to push, like apply pressure, for sure. And this is one of those things that I was talking about with the spell card, is this card triggers on Synchro Summon. On Synchro Summon. And our new guy, where's he at? He says if this Synchro Summon card is destroyed by an opponent's card, right? This card does not Synchro Summon, it just says Special Summon. Now maybe it'll have some weird text once it actually gets translated saying something along the lines of this is treated as a Synchro Summon, which will make this totally fine. But just keep in mind, if it doesn't have that text, you will not be able to get either of those effects that are reliant on the monsters being like correctly Synchro Summoned. So yeah, but that's going to do it for me here. I mean, just the 2 new cards. I think it's cool though, because I know a lot of people have been looking forward for like volcanic stuff. I know it's not volcanic stuff, but it's LAVAL, so it's kind of in that same-ish vein, or at least like, you know, the vein right next to it. I think it's decent. I think, honestly, the other 2 cards we have, the Archer and this guy, are better than these 2, but honestly, we'll take all we can get for these archetypes that need the help. So we'll take it. We'll see what we can do with it down the line, and also keep in mind, I'm sure there's other generic... the spell summons any fire synchro, so I just don't know off the top of my head what good fire synchros exist out there. There might be some generic stuff that's actually pretty good. I'm probably going to look after the video, but I'm going to end it off there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on all new card reveals / reviews, because I love doing them. I love talking about new cards and how I think they'll do, what I think they do for their specific deck or in the game itself. It's one of my favorite videos to do. So stay tuned for that, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.